Hello, and welcome to the lore of Braunhaven. Today we're going to be talking about the last of the uh, civilized and large towns in the Eastern Plains. And we'll be starting that conversation with the town of Ashton. Ashton uh, sits in a very fortuitous location. It is in a valley that is flanked by the Isha River and the Mallory River, which both feed into Hookham Lake. And the town of Ashton sits on the southern point of that valley on the northern side of Hookham Lake. The lake is quite large, and this valley that is created by the Isha and Mallory rivers provides a geographical barrier to the knoll packs on both the eastern and western sides, as well as Hookham Lake itself is quite, like I said, it's quite large, and the southern knolls have a difficult time, and so of crossing it, and so the town of Ashton really is kind of protected simply because of a fortuitous choice in location. The economy of Ashton mostly consists of fishing, either on either of the rivers or in Hookham Lake itself. Mostly it takes place in Hookham Lake. Although crossing of Hookham Lake can be difficult, there are a number of currents created by the two rivers and, of course, the size of the lake itself, as the lake then at the southern end drains into Carr's River, which goes out through the uh, western point of the Assesha jungles and into the rushing Gulf of the Dragon Sea. The town of Ashton is idyllic, surrounded by a small wood. It is an alpine type town, although it looks almost out of place sitting out here in the middle of the plains, surrounded by an endless field of grass, this scrubby grass. They do have some crops that they grow, mostly because the ground in the valley is a little bit more fertile than other locations in the plains due to the rivers and the lake. The the town has almost the view of what you might think of as a resort. Like it looks like a good place to vacation. I mean, that's not why the town was created. They just decided that this was going to be their settlement, and it worked out for them. But to the average person that's visiting, it looks like a vacation spot. They do have quite a bit of trade on a trade road that moves to the north to the dwarven citadel of Doralgolir. The dwarves of Doralgolir are not. Um, the citadel is not a city. It is a functioning mine, and the dwarves are very protective of this mine. They don't really welcome outsiders to visit Doralgolir very often. They are very protective and militant of their citadel, and this is one reason why the gnolls have not been more of a problem than they would be. The dwarves are entrenched, and they are very good at protecting their citadel. This has also benefited the town of Nawlson. Nawlson could be considered the second largest town in that's left in the Eastern Plains. Most everything else has dried up, with the exceptions of Hannington and the town of Lane, which are constantly under assault by the gnolls. Whereas Nawlson is under assault, especially by the Threx gnoll pack, but the town of Nawlson has an alliance and a pact with the dwarves of Doralgolir, and they have come to the defense of Nawlson on numerous occasions. to defend them, help defend them against the Threx gnolls, and this is usually more than enough to turn the tide. Unfortunately, for the gnolls, because of how they live their lives and how they act, they don't have the acumen to form, large scale armies or bands, and they have next to no leadership. Unlike orcs, the gnolls, if they do operate, it's usually going to be in small packs, or if they do create an army, it's going to be a fairly small army, and it doesn't take very much to break them apart because of their truly chaotic nature. I mean, they're not just vile. They are truly chaotic. There's no telling what they'll do from one second to the next, even amongst themselves. And so this has been easily turned by the more organized people of Nawlson and the organization of the dwarves themselves. So Nawlson is a walled town. I almost called it a city, but it's not. It's a town. It is a walled town, very highly defended. And for the most part, they may only see an assault from the gnolls maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And this siege by the gnolls may last, anywhere from 2 to 3 days, maybe a week to a week and a half if the gnolls are really, in on it. But for the most part, they are able to break it up and cause the gnolls to retreat fairly soon after the whole engagement begins. Back to the town of Ashton. Like I said, they do have a trade road that goes up to Doralgolir, mostly for metals. Ashton does have a good reputation of having a well-stocked armory, though they don't have as much of a need to use it. And so a lot of those arms end up being sold to the south at Lake Inn for parties that are moving up and down the eastern tradeway, and so they do have a bit of a trade route that they ferry across the Hookham Lake and sell these weapons and armor and equipment at Lake Inn. Some parties have coming through the plains. If they're going to make an excursion, a lot of times those parties will at Lake Inn, there near Buckley's Ferry, they will stay there, but and they'll make Lake Inn their kind of base of operations. But more intelligent parties and ones that are planning on doing major excursions throughout the plains move north, and they actually they actually stay in the town of Ashton itself. Ashton doesn't have a whole lot of taverns and inns. I mean, it is a small town, but they do have one large inn, and they do have a couple of different taverns that can facilitate this kind of activity. But for the most part, not very many people go to Ashton. It's like I said, the travel on Hookham Lake can be treacherous, especially in the winter months. When the winds kick up across the plains, and this can cause some difficulty in Hookham Lake. And the natural currents of the three rivers can cause some strange eddies to appear. You need to be well versed in seafarer in order to travel on Hookham Lake reliably. The people of Ashton, for their part, because of their ability to do fishing and it being such a major staple of their diet, they are mostly quite skilled at travel on both Hookham Lake and the rivers. A lot of trade from Nawlson comes down the Isha River on barges, though this can be a problem because sometimes the gnolls will actually attack the barges on the Isha River. Where Doralgolir is, sometimes they'll send ore shipments down the Mallory River, but for the most part, they will use the trade road, and it goes both ways. Doralgolir, unlike Nawlson, Doralgolir doesn't have a complete defense pact with Ashton the way that Nawlson does. but mostly because Ashton simply doesn't need it. But they do have a good trade relationship. So that is the Eastern Plains. Next time, I will be talking about the Great Eastern Desert and some of the wastes that lay there and some of the hidden secrets. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.